Hello and welcome to According to Wes. I'm Wesley, and in today's episode, we look at education, the foundation of every nation's future. From AI tutors in the classroom to automated language translation tools, AI is beginning to influence how African learners are taught and how teachers work. But are we building a smarter future or deepening the digital divide? The question is, how can AI help Africa leapfrog its educational gaps? Uganda, like much of the continent, faces critical challenges. According to official government data and reports from organizations like UESO, these challenges include overcrowded classrooms, overworked teachers, and other foundational learning gaps. In a system where the national average student to teacher ratio in government primary schools hovers around 54 to 1 and can be far higher in specific districts, could AI be the assistant teachers and students desperately need? But first, let's look at what does AI in education look like. AI in education isn't, about replacing teachers. It's about creating tools to support them. And here's how this can be done. You can look at personalized tutoring. Think of virtual assistants that can explain a concept in different ways until a student understands. A well known global example is Khan developed by the Khan Academy, which acts as a Socratic guide for students. You can look at adaptive learning platforms. These are systems that identify a learner's strength and weaknesses through quizzes and exercises and then adjust the content to their level. You could also look at automated assessment, where AI tools can help teachers by automatically grading multiple choice tests or even providing initial feedback on essays, freeing up their time to, for more direct engagement with students. You could also look at natural language processing. And this is very crucial for Africa because NLP is the technology that allows AI to understand and generate human language. And so it can be used to translate educational content to local languages that are often neglected by the mainstream tech. But also you could also look at early intervention, where systems can analyze performance and engagement data to predict which students are at risk of falling behind or dropping out and allowing teachers to intervene early. So these technologies are no longer science fiction. So we need to look at how they look on the ground in Africa. And there have pretty good examples that we have in Africa. In Nigeria, we have ULesson, founded by Sim Shagaya. The ULesson is one of Africa's most prominent edtech platforms, and it uses animated video lessons, it has quizzes and live classes to deliver curriculum aligned content. And while it's not really heavily marketed as AI driven, it's a platform inherently using data analytics to track student performance and recommend content, which is one of the core principles of adaptive learning. And it is designed for the African context, which then offers its app in low bandwidth mode to function effectively with even poor internet connectivity, like in northern Nigeria. When you look closer to home in Kenya, there is Eneza Education. So Eneza Education is really like a pioneer in reaching learners in low resource settings. They started by delivering lessons and quizzes via basic SMS, meaning it could reach students who didn't have smartphones and internet access. But of course, the platform has since evolved. They have integrated in chatbot functionalities that provide more interactive and self-paced learning on platforms like Telegram, and they are serving millions and millions of users across African countries. In Uganda, the edtech landscape is still emerging. Really, the ambition is high, and there is that widespread adoption of advanced AI tools, but we are still getting there. However, we have Wangi AI. It's a Ugandan startup that is focusing on natural language processing for African languages, and it is still in its early stages. So we hope that they're able to build data sets and tools for languages like Luganda, which could be foundational for creating curricularly relevant educational content in AI. And we also have some NGO and community efforts. So we have a couple of few local NGOs and organizations like the Uganda National Association for the Blind. They've been using digital tools, including text-to-speech software, to support the visually impaired learners. And this demonstrates that, well, there is a need and use case for using assistive AI technologies. However, the reality is in most public schools, these tools are out of reach to due to systematic barriers, like, for instance, infrastructural gaps. Um, According to a report, a 2022 report by the Uganda Communications Commission, only about 30% of schools in the country had internet access. Reliable electricity is a very huge challenge, especially in rural areas. There's also limited teacher training. Many teachers have not received adequate training to integrate digital tools in their pedagogy. And there is also language barrier. The vast majority of sophisticated AI learning tools are in English, and you're leaving behind learners who think and speak in Luganda, Luo, Lunyoro, and all these other local languages. But you may ask yourself, why would a country like Uganda need AI in education? Um, in 2021, there's a study by UWEZO Uganda. They found that only 39% of primary 3 pupils could read a primary 2 level story. The COVID-19 school closures worsened this learning crisis. And this is where AI, if it's implemented equitably, it could make a difference through personalizing learning. We could have AI powered tools that could allow students in crowded Karamoja schools to practice foundational literacy or numeracy at their own pace, getting instant feedback that a teacher managing 80 students cannot possibly provide. You could also look at supplementing teachers. You could have an AI assistant that could help with lesson planning, creating worksheets, or marking very simple tests. And this would give teachers more time for high impact activities, like mentorship and critical thinking development, which is a very much needed skill. And it also boosts language inclusion. So if we can imagine having our own large language models that are fine-tuned on Runyankole, Ateso, actually, this could help preserve these languages, but also support creative writing and translate STEM content, which would make it accessible to millions of Ugandans. So these challenges There are challenges and ethical concerns here. We need to look at the digital divide. The biggest barrier is access. When you look at a 2023 report by the World Bank, it notes that in sub Saharan Africa, only about 36% of the population use mobile internet. In Uganda, girls and children with disabilities are often the last to get access to these digital services, meaning AI could inadvertently worsen existing inequalities. When you look at bias in the content and the algorithms that are available, most AI models are trained on data from the global north. And this can lead to curricula that is culturally irrelevant or biased. And we have, for instance, you could think of an AI history tutor might know a lot about the American Civil War, but nothing about the Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom. So, and then the other concern is, of course, data privacy. You have these edtech platforms collecting vast amount of data on children, how they learn, how they behave, how they perform. Who owns this data? And how is it protected? When you look at Uganda's Data Protection and Privacy Act of 2019, it provides a framework, but the enforcement and public awareness, especially concerning children's data, it's still a very critical challenge. So, and you could also look at what is the role of the teacher in this AI race. There is a common fear that AI will replace teachers. Now, the more productive framing is that AI can handle the repetitive tasks while teachers focus on the humans, on what humans do best, like providing mentorship, fostering social emotional skills, and creating a supportive, culturally aware classroom environment. What needs to be done for us in the Ugandan classrooms is we need to provide the infrastructure and the access. We need to invest in solar power for schools that do not have reliable electricity. We need to promote offline fast AI tools that can work without a constant internet connection. And we need to also have these public-private partnerships that could help create models for providing affordable services. And we also need to look at the digital and AI literacy for the teachers. The teachers need to be at the center of this transformation. They need to be accorded professional development with a focus on practical ways of how to use AI as a teaching assistant, not just on coding. And we also need to look at how can we do language and cultural adaptation. We need to be deliberate on this and invest in African NLP projects. This means we have to create and fund local data sets on languages like Luganda, Nyankole, Langi, Lugisu, and we need to also enable our developers to be able to build tools that are truly localized. And also, we need to look at the policy and collaboration. For instance, Uganda's Ministry of Education and Sports, they have to develop clear standards and guidelines for vetting and integrating AI tools in the national curriculum. They have to pilot these technologies, and that should be done equitably and focus on under-resourced schools, not just the elite urban ones. So AI must never widen the gap between the students who have and those who do not have. It should be a bridge, not a border. So as we come close to the end of this episode, you need to understand that AI in education holds very immense promise for personalizing learning and supporting overworked teachers in contexts like Uganda. But there is a deliberate action to address the digital divide, teacher training, and cultural localization. it risks deepening existing inequalities if not tackled. And we need to also have inclusive, policy-driven, and localized approach because it's essential for Uganda to harness the benefits of AI in education for all learners. So thank you for tuning in to According to Wes. In the next episode, we move from the classroom to the clinic and we will explore AI and health in Africa. How is it being used to diagnose diseases, support rural health workers, and predict outbreaks? And what are the deep ethical questions that we need to ask? So don't miss it. Stay tuned. And if you're listening in on Apple, please follow us. If you're listening in on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and keep it going. Thank you.